Picture this. It's the 2006 World Cup final. Over 1 billion people are watching. The pressure is suffocating. Grown men are crumbling under the weight of expectation. And then there's Zinedine Zidane, walking around the pitch like he's taking a casual stroll through a park, completely unbothered by the chaos around him. This wasn't just composure. This was something supernatural. But here's what'll absolutely blow your mind. Zidane didn't just handle pressure well, he seemed to feed off it. The bigger the moment, the more impossible the situation, the calmer he became. We're talking about a player who turned the most stressful moments in football into masterpieces of tranquility. While other legends cracked under pressure, Zidane made it look like meditation. I've spent weeks analyzing Zidane's greatest moments, studying his body language, his decision-making, his almost mystical ability to slow down time when everyone else was speeding up. What I discovered will change how you think about mental strength forever, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how one man turned pressure into his greatest weapon, and why Zinedine Zidane remains the most zen footballer who ever lived. So settle in, because this story will take you inside the mind of a player who found peace in the eye of every storm.
Across to Zidane, can he finish it once and for all? Zinedine Zidane, 3-1!
It all started in Marseille, France, in 1972. Zinedine Yazid Zidane was born to Algerian immigrant parents in the tough neighborhood of La Castellane. This wasn't some privileged upbringing. We're talking about a place where opportunities were scarce and dreams seemed impossible. His father worked as a warehouseman, his mother stayed home to raise 5 children, and money was always tight. But even as a kid, there was something different about Zidane's relationship with pressure. While other children would panic during school tests or freeze up during playground arguments, young Zinedine had this almost eerie calmness about him. His teachers noticed it first, this kid who could think clearly when everyone else was losing their minds. On the football pitches of Marseille, this trait became even more apparent. When local kids would get frustrated and start kicking the ball wildly, Zidane would slow everything down. He'd receive the ball, take a breath, and suddenly the chaos would transform into something beautiful. His childhood friends later said it was like watching someone conduct an orchestra in the middle of a riot. At 14, Zidane was spotted by scouts from AS Cannes. But here's the thing. They almost didn't sign him, not because he lacked talent, but because he was so calm that some coaches thought he didn't care enough. He never seemed bothered by anything, one scout said. We wondered if he had the fire to make it as a professional. They couldn't have been more wrong. Zidane's professional debut came at 17, and immediately, something was clear. This kid was different. While other young players would be nervous, making rushed decisions and panicking under pressure, Zidane looked like he'd been playing professional football his entire life. He had this supernatural ability to find pockets of space that didn't seem to exist, to make the right decision even when he had 3 defenders breathing down his neck. But it was his move to Bordeaux in 1992 that really announced Zidane to the football world. Playing in a more competitive league, facing better players, the pressure should have increased. Instead, Zidane seemed to thrive. The bigger the match, the more important the moment, the better he played. His teammates at Bordeaux were amazed. We'd be in the dressing room before a big match. Everyone's nerves were shot, and Zidane would be sitting there like he was about to go for a coffee. One former teammate recalled. Then he'd go out and play like he was in his backyard. This wasn't just natural talent, this was something deeper. Zidane had developed a philosophy about pressure that would define his entire career. While other players saw pressure as something to overcome, Zidane saw it as information. The more pressure there was, the more important the moment, which meant the more focused he needed to become. In 1996, Zidane made the move that would change everything. Juventus, playing in Serie A, the most tactical and pressure-filled league in the world, against the smartest defenders on the planet. This was where Zidane's unique relationship with pressure would be truly tested. And he didn't just pass the test, he redefined what was possible. His first season at Juventus was a masterclass in composure. Playing alongside legends like Roberto Baggio and Alessandro Del Piero, Zidane quickly became the team's heartbeat. But it wasn't his goals or assists that impressed people most. It was his presence. In the biggest matches, when the pressure was at its peak, Zidane would somehow make everyone around him calmer. Playing with Zidane was like having a therapist on the pitch. Del Piero later said, "When things got chaotic, you'd look at him, and he'd be completely serene. It was contagious." His calmness spread to the entire team. But the moment that truly showcased Zidane's supernatural composure came in the 1998 World Cup. Playing on home soil with the entire nation watching, the pressure on the French team was immense. This was their chance to win their first World Cup, and everyone knew it. Most players would have crumbled under that weight. Zidane, he turned it into the performance of his lifetime. The final against Brazil was the ultimate pressure test. Brazil had Ronaldo, the best player in the world. They were the defending champions. They were expected to win. But in the 27th minute, with the entire Stade de France holding its breath, Zidane rose to meet a corner kick and powered a header past the Brazilian goalkeeper. But here's what was incredible. After scoring the most important goal of his career in front of 80,000 screaming fans, Zidane's celebration was almost peaceful. No wild running, no screaming, just a calm acknowledgement of what he'd done, like he'd expected it all along. 18 minutes later, he did it again. Another header, another goal, another moment of pure tranquility in the chaos of a World Cup final. France won 3-0, and Zidane had delivered his country their greatest sporting moment while looking like he was playing a friendly match in his backyard. After the match, reporters asked him about the pressure, about the weight of expectation. Zidane's response was classic. Pressure? I felt no pressure. When you're doing what you love, in the moment you've dreamed of your entire life, why would you feel pressure? I felt peaceful. This wasn't just confidence talking. This was a man who had genuinely found a way to transform pressure into something positive. If you're fascinated by this incredible mental approach to the game, make sure to subscribe to Soccer Chronicles because we explore the psychology behind football's greatest legends. Trust me, what comes next in Zidane's story will show you just how powerful this mindset can be. After winning the World Cup, Zidane's reputation as the master of pressure was cemented, but it was his move to Real Madrid in 2001 that would provide the ultimate stage for his zen-like approach to football's biggest moments. Real Madrid paid a world record fee of 77.5 million euros for Zidane, making him the most expensive player in history. The pressure was enormous. He had to justify that price tag. He had to perform in El Clásicos. He had to deliver in the Champions League. For most players, this would have been overwhelming. For Zidane, it was just another day at the office. His debut season at Real Madrid was good, but it was in his second season that Zidane produced what many consider the greatest moment of composure in football history. The 2002 Champions League final against Bayer Leverkusen at Hampden Park in Glasgow. The match was tied 1-1 heading into the second half. Real Madrid, despite their star-studded lineup, were struggling. The pressure was building. This was supposed to be their year, their chance to win their 9th European Cup, but Leverkusen were proving to be stubborn opponents. Then, in the 45th minute, Roberto Carlos received the ball on the left wing. He looked up and saw Zidane 25 yards from goal with his back to the net. Most players would have played it safe, passed it backwards, kept possession, but Carlos knew something about Zidane that the rest of the world was still learning. The bigger the moment, the more impossible the situation, the more likely Zidane was to do something magical. Carlos crossed the ball high into the air. Zidane, with his back to goal, watched it coming. Defenders were closing in. The goalkeeper was ready. The entire stadium was holding its breath. And in that moment of pure pressure, Zidane did something that defied logic. He turned and with his left foot struck the ball on the volley. Not just any volley, a perfect arcing shot that flew past the goalkeeper and into the top corner. It was a goal that should have been impossible, executed with the calmness of a training ground exercise. The celebration that followed was pure Zidane. While his teammates went crazy, while the crowd erupted, Zidane simply raised his arms and smiled, like he'd known all along that the ball was going in, like pressure was just another word for opportunity. That goal won Real Madrid the Champions League, but more importantly, it showed the world what Zidane's relationship with pressure really looked like. While other players saw pressure as something that could make them fail, Zidane saw it as something that could make him transcendent. But Zidane's mastery of pressure wasn't just about individual moments. It was about how he elevated everyone around him. His Real Madrid teammates often spoke about how different the team felt when Zidane was on the pitch. When Zizou had the ball, even in the most chaotic situations, everything felt under control, Raul once said. He had this way of slowing the game down, of making the impossible seem routine. This ability to remain calm under pressure became Zidane's signature. In El Clásicos against Barcelona, when the tension was suffocating and other players were making mistakes, Zidane would be orchestrating play, like a conductor leading a symphony. In Champions League knockout matches, when careers were on the line, Zidane would find solutions that no one else could see. The 2006 World Cup provided the perfect stage for Zidane's final demonstration of his supernatural composure. At 34, this was his last tournament, his final chance to add to his legacy. The pressure was immense. France weren't expected to do well. Zidane was past his prime. This was supposed to be a farewell tour. Instead, it became a masterpiece of pressure management. Throughout the tournament, as France defied expectations and reached the final, Zidane was the calm center of every storm. In the semi-final against Portugal, with the match tied and heading to penalties, Zidane stepped up and scored the winning penalty with the composure of someone taking a practice shot. But it was in the final against Italy that Zidane's relationship with pressure would be tested one final time, and this time it would reveal both his greatest strength and his most human moment. The match started perfectly for Zidane. In the 7th minute, France were awarded a penalty. With a billion people watching, with the weight of his legacy on his shoulders, Zidane stepped up to take it. But instead of the usual run-up and powerful shot, Zidane did something that perfectly encapsulated his approach to pressure. He chipped the penalty, a Panenka penalty, in a World Cup final with everything on the line. It was the ultimate expression of composure under pressure. So calm, so confident that he could attempt the most audacious penalty technique in football's biggest moment. The ball hit the crossbar and went in. Zidane had given France the lead in the World Cup final with one of the most composed penalties ever taken. But then came the moment that showed even Zidane was human. In the 110th minute, after Marco Materazzi said something that crossed a line, Zidane lost his composure for the first and only time in his career. The headbutt that followed became one of football's most infamous moments. Yet even in that moment of madness, there was something almost zen about Zidane's reaction. He didn't argue with the referee, didn't protest the red card. He simply walked off the pitch, past the World Cup trophy, ending his career in the most dramatic way possible. Later, when asked about that moment, Zidane said something that perfectly captured his philosophy. "I lost my calm for 10 seconds, and it cost me everything, but I don't regret it." Sometimes being human is more important than being perfect. After retiring as a player, Zidane's mastery of pressure found a new outlet: management. When he took over Real Madrid in 2016, many questioned whether his Zen-like approach would work from the sidelines. The answer came quickly. In his first season, Real Madrid won the Champions League. In his second season, they won it again. In his third season, they completed an unprecedented three-peat. And throughout it all, Zidane maintained the same supernatural composure that had defined his playing career. His players often spoke about how calm Zidane remained during the biggest matches. Even when we were losing, even when everything seemed to be going wrong, Zizou would be completely relaxed, Sergio Ramos said. His calmness gave us confidence. If he wasn't worried, why should we be? The 2018 Champions League final against Liverpool was the perfect example. When Mohamed Salah got injured early in the match, when Liverpool were pressing hard, when the pressure was building, Zidane made a substitution that changed everything. He brought on Gareth Bale, who scored 2 incredible goals to win the match. After the game, reporters asked Zidane about the pressure of managing in such a big match. His response was classic: "Pressure is a privilege. It means you're in a position to achieve something special. Why would I be afraid of that?" Today, Zinedine Zidane is remembered as one of the greatest players and managers in football history, but his true legacy isn't his trophies or his goals. It's his demonstration that pressure doesn't have to be the enemy, that the biggest moments in sport can be approached with calmness, with clarity, with peace. In a world where athletes are taught to fight pressure, to overcome it, to battle through it, Zidane showed a different way. He showed that pressure could be embraced, that it could be transformed into something beautiful. His approach wasn't just about football, it was about life, about finding peace in chaos, about staying calm when everyone else is losing their minds, about turning the most stressful moments into opportunities for greatness. Young players today still study Zidane's games, not just for his technique, but for his composure. Coaches use his example to teach their players about mental strength. Be like Zidane, they say. When the pressure builds, don't fight it, dance with it. The secret to Zidane's supernatural composure wasn't some mystical ability. It was perspective. He understood that pressure was just another word for importance. The more pressure there was, the more important the moment, which meant the more honor there was in being part of it. "I never felt pressure," Zidane once said in an interview. "I felt privilege to be on the biggest stages, playing the most important matches with the best players in the world. How could that be pressure? That was paradise." And that's the lesson of Zinedine Zidane's career. That pressure isn't something to be feared or overcome, it's something to be embraced. That the biggest moments in life aren't obstacles to survive, but opportunities to show who you really are. So the next time you're facing pressure, remember Zidane. Remember the man who turned the World Cup final into a meditation, who made the Champions League final look like a training session, who found peace in the eye of every storm. If this story inspired you to think differently about pressure and mental strength, make sure you're subscribed to Soccer Chronicles, because next week, we're exploring another football legend who mastered the mental side of the game in a completely different way. Click that video right there to discover how one player turned anger into his greatest weapon. Trust me, it's a story that will change how you think about emotion in sports, because sometimes the greatest victories aren't won with your feet, they're won with your mind. And nobody understood that better than the man who made pressure look like peace.